Hello everybody and welcome to a tutorial for Unreal Engine 5. In today's video we will explore how to do tessellation for your landscape using Nanite Displacement. This tutorial will cover topics such as creating a material function for your Nanite Displacement, an ambient occlusion material function, and also how to control the color. But if you're interested in getting one of the best landscape auto material for Nanite Displacement out there, then take a look at my project called the World Forge, and you can have breathtaking worlds with not a lot of effort and full-on Nanite Displacement for your landscape at very high quality and blends. We will start by first exploring a Geogen and exporting a Heightmap to use for our landscape. We'll then use that Heightmap in our Unreal Engine landscape. We will also then set up the material function for displacement and an ambient occlusion function for displacement. We'll also be using Quixel Bridge to get some high quality textures. This project will be available for you to download on my Patreon for free. So let's begin. Start off in Geogen, we will use this Warp Flow Desert preset. You can change the resolution on your Geogen to 2K. And then we can use this final node in the branch to export the Heightmap. So all we can do is just drag in an export node, and in there we choose the useful range, snap to Unreal Engine, and then use an R16 format to export. Then in Unreal Engine, we will create a new level called Level Tutorial. In here, I will create, using the Environment Light Mixer, the lighting. And then I will go to my landscape mode and import my new Heightmap. This will then load up the Heightmap, and we can then start the process by pressing import. You can now see our landscape in its full extent. We're also going to decrease the fog density to 0.001 so we can see better what's going on. I will then go to my Quixel content, and in here I'm going to check some textures, and I'm going to download the highest quality. Obviously, everybody's got access to Quixel Bridge, but if you don't have any assets, then you can get some textures of your own. Now, normally, if you download any textures from Fab, you will notice that you will get all these textures like a base color, cavity, displacement, normal, and roughness. You can check on my texture graph tutorial in order to understand how to package these to properly use them with the system. But if you get textures from the Quixel Bridge, you will notice that there's only 3 textures. We have a diffuse, a normal, and an ORD texture. We can now create a new material. Make sure we use material attributes for this, and we will look for a blend material attributes node. In here, we want to set up a material in the A slot, B slot, and also use an alpha to mix between them. I'm now going to bring 3 textures in here. So the base color, the normal, and the ORD. And now we can also set up a set material node. And we want to add a base color, we want to add a normal, and also ambient occlusion, roughness, and displacement, and also specular as a slot. Now plug the textures the way I have plugged them. So make sure that the ORD is plugged in the ambient, roughness, and displacement. We're also going to use a named reroute node in order to create a layer from this. And we'll do the same for the next layer. Once this is done, we can use the name reroute for layer 2 as well in the blend material attribute. Now we can save the material and have a look at our landscape once we apply the material that we've just created. When we apply it, make sure you create a material instance out of it first so we can apply that to the landscape. And when we apply it, you will notice that the landscape will be completely black. And this is because we're not yet mixing between the 2 layers. So we need to set something into the alpha. So for this, we're going to use a slope mask. I'm going to search for a slope mask and add a node, the result into the alpha map. Now we are going to have to create a parameter, and we're going to call this slope angle. This will decide the angle for our slope for the 2 materials. I'm going to set a value to 40. I'm also going to search for a breakout float free components node, and I'm going to add a subtract node. Then we can take the R channel of the break float free components to the A value of the subtract. The green value will go into another subtract, and our slope angle will connect in both the B values of the two subtract nodes that we just added. Then we can add a make float free node and a divide node. We can take the first subtract and connect it to the X, and the second one to the Y, and then the B colored for the breakout float to Z. We need to now connect our angle to that break float free components, and the divide node will go into the slope angle. We can promote to parameter the fall off power, and we'll set it to 2, and we can also do the same for the cheap contrast, and we'll set that to 1. And that will be for our slope mask. Now let's actually see it in action. You'll notice in the landscape that we get a lot of tiling, and our slope is definitely working, but we've got to resolve the tiling issue. So inside our material, we're going to search for landscape layer coordinates. And this node, we are going to add a multiply node and then create a new parameter. And this parameter will be a landscape tiling global setting. We'll set this up to 2 and connect it to the multiply node, and then create a named reroute and call this landscape coordinate global. We can now get our name reroute for landscape coordinate global and connect it to the UVs of all of our textures. We'll do this individually in case we want to control them differently. Now you can see there's a bit of changes, but we're going to bring our material instance in order to change the tiling in the material instance itself. So going back to the map, you'll notice that when we change the landscape tiling, not a lot improves. That's because the landscape coordinates mapping scale needs to be set up to a higher value, like 80. Now you can see that it's properly tiling, and we get some really nice results between these two layers that are now blending based on the slope angle. Now, if we enable the slope angle, the cheap contrast and fall off power, we can play with the settings, and you'll notice that the slope angle controls how these layers combine. The fall off power allows for more, for more of these values to intertwine, and the cheap contrast helps to create a bit of a mix in between, depending on the angle that they're using. So I would leave you to experiment with these figures to get the right balance for your scene. But right now, as you can see, it's a very powerful tool with not a lot of elements. Now let's go on and add the displacement. So we'll need to enable the tessellation in our material and press apply. Once you do this, you will have to build the geometry data. So with our landscape selected, we'll go down to our Nanite settings, enable Nanite, and build data. Once this finishes, you'll notice that we get this displacement, which looks completely out of whack. So now it's time to change the magnitude to 1 from 4, which will now make our displacement look a little bit better, but it's still a far cry. So all I want to show you is that all the textures are set up to grayscale in my project, but usually they'll come out as masks, so or color. So in theory, if we set them all up as masks now, just so you can see, and we press apply, the displacement will look somewhat okay, but still a lot of problems in there because the displacement isn't properly loaded up. So when I walk around in the scene, displacement kind of feels okay from a distance, but it's not actually running properly. If we change our maps back to grayscale, and we actually change them to linear grayscale in our material shader, and we press apply, the displacement is wrong again, but it's still more accurate. And we can play with this and we can improve it by adding a new material function that I like to call displacement, landscape displacement control, or whatever, floats your boat. But this will allow us to actually control the displacement outputs. So we're going to add a function input in here, and we're going to call it displacement height texture. We're then going to add another function input, and this is going to be for the UV, and another one for center, the displacement center, and another one for the displacement intensity, and the last one will be for the displacement offset. Now, with all these nodes added in, we're going to add a few math nodes, like a divide node between the UV and high texture, a multiply node between that divide and the high texture. We're also going to add our values between the displacement center and our high texture, and use a 1- value with a lerp node in order for us to actually get a good alpha for our displacement. We're going to now use our displacement offset into the saturate node and into our output, which we're going to call it as displacement output. Now we can add some default values like 0 to the displacement offset and a default value of 1 to the displacement height texture in case you're not using one. Now we can press apply and bring our displacement material function in here, and then we can hook up the nodes, the UV that we've used everywhere. The displacement output is going to go into our displacement. Now you're noticing an error where it says cannot cast from smaller type float 2 to large type float 3. And this is because I've set the nodes as vector free inside the material function. We need to set these up as scalar instead of vector free, and that will fix our problem. Once I press apply, I can then set up the parameters for displacement center, intensity, and offset. And we can now add a bit of, like default values in the material, in the shader, but it's in the material function that we want to play around. Now you can see that the displacement has taken effect, as in we have it set to 0 for now, but using the material instance, we can set up some values like 0.5 for center, 15 for displacement intensity, and minus 0.3 for displacement offset. And already it's looking a lot better on this layer. But we can improve it further. So we're going to add a new node in our material function called an S-curve. So this is going to help us to further improve the blend. I'm going to add the S-curve at the end and then a parameter for it to control it called S-curve power. And I'm going to put this to 0.5 as a default value and press apply. And now when we go back into our landscape, you'll notice that the S-curve is doing the work and it's actually balancing the displacement quite nicely. So we're getting these really good plateaus. Obviously, as you change the values, you'll get different kind of effects. So play around with the settings to get the element that best suits you. Now it's time to set up the displacement control for the second layer. So we're going to use the same process that we did before. So I'm gonna go through this again. And then once that's in place, we can press apply and go back to our layer. And you'll notice that the displacement is now properly displaying around for both layers. But displacement in general causes all sorts of texture warping. By the way, guys, I just wanted to mention that if you'd like to explore the World Forge, which is a nanite displacement landscape tool, which allows you to create beautiful worlds in a few minutes, it's got the Atmos Forge for cloud system, it's got the nanite displacement auto material and nanite foliage included. This is a full-on system that allows you to control worlds, and you can create massive environments in, as a matter of minutes, and it's got loads of blends and loads of features for displacement and for very realistic environments. Right, back to the tutorial. So in here, we now want to add ambient occlusion for nanite displacement. And for this, I'm going to use the red channel of our RD texture, but I'm going to create a new material function for ambient control. So let's create a new material function. And this, we're going to call it AO control. And in here, we only need a couple of simple nodes. So we'll start up with some function inputs, and we'll name this as base color. And then another one will actually change this from vector free to scalar for the AO intensity. The next one is going to be AO input texture. And the next one will be AO contrast. Now with all these nodes added in, we'll just use a default value of 0 on 2 of these. And we're going to use a 1- to invert the intensity of the ambient occlusion, a multiply node between our intensity and our texture, a lerp node, and a power node. And all of these will connect to effectively create a blend between the RGB texture and the ambient occlusion, thus creating a fake AO system. We're going to plug in our base color into this new AO. We're also going to add a, oh, by the way, I made a mistake here. We should be calling it AO input texture, not AI input texture. Once that's done, we can now promote parameter the AO intensity for layer 1. And then we'll do the same for AO contrast. So that's going to be layer 1 AO contrast. And we'll press apply just to check the new settings for layer 1. Now, with that done, we can go into our material instance and start playing around with the settings. And you'll notice that the ambient occlusion can actually darken the edges where between the crevices of the displacement, which is very, very useful because you will be able to hide some of that texture stretching that displacement generally can create. So this can be very powerful and very useful for you and for your workflow. Now we're going to do the same thing for the second layer. I'm going to copy paste the nodes that I've created, and this time around all I'm going to do is do the same steps, but I'm going to name the parameters as layer 2 so that we have different controls for layer 1 and layer 2, thus giving us, as I said, more control. Now you'll notice now that we play around with the settings for layer 2, this is adding a whole new personality to the landscape by just simply darkening those edges of the stone slabs. Walking around the scene, you'll notice that there's a lot of depth in the scene. But we can further improve this by changing the lighting a little bit as well. So I'm going to show you a different trick here using the specular. So we're going to add a new parameter for layer 2 called specular, and I'm going to actually do this for both layers, and each of them will be called layer 1, layer 2 respectively. Now we can control this with a material instance. So we can set this to 0, for example. You'll notice that a lot of the specular is now gone, but I like to use some very small values for specular here and there just to get a bit of lighting, sort of like colliding with the landscape, and it looks more realistic. Now you can see that the environment looks a lot better already, so it's definitely coming into shape. Now if we go into our display directional light, we can change its source angle to, right now it's like 50. So this is what it looks like with 50. Usually it's set to 1, but I like to use a value of probably around 20 to 25 or something like that, which just softens the shadows in the world, making it look a bit more realistic than, what a video game normally looks like. But we can do more. We can add a post-process volume as well. Make sure that you turn on the infinite extent for it. Once that's done, go over into your exposure settings. And in here, you can change the metering mode to manual and the exposure compensation to something like 11. Try 12, try 13, depending on your taste. But for me, I find 11 or 12 to be just about the right number for this. And you'll notice that our environment is now a lot more controllable because of what the changes that we've done. I'm going to leave it to 13 for now, but feel free to use any value you want. We can also go to our slope angle, to our tiling, and play around with the settings further in order to get a blend much more closer to what we would like. Obviously, advanced setups for landscapes already exist. There's a lot of tutorials out there. But we can also add tiling to be independent for each layer. So, this is quite easy. Just create the scalar parameter for layer 1 tiling and layer 2, and just multiply between the landscape coordinate global for both of these. And that should help you to be able to further streamline this. Now, another thing that we want to do is to be able to change the color on the layer. So I'm going to add a static switch parameter, and I'm going to call it use adjusted maps. And we're going to mix here by using a multiply and desaturation node. We're going to take our RGB and put it into the saturation and multiply node. Then we'll add a color for our multiply node and set it to white, and we can plug it into the static switch parameter, and then we should be able to actually control the color of the second layer, which allows us to blend any texture with any other texture as we see fit. Now you can see that the entire environment has turned quite this Mars brown type of look. And we could obviously change this a lot more. We can play with the other settings in order to get more control. But the color of this could be changed to anything, to green, to blue, to whatever you'd like, obviously based on the blends that you're going to use. So this is very powerful, and it's already a very good starting point for your landscape and for your displacement. Well, thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that. Please follow me on Patreon and my projects on Fab if you'd like to take a look. But this project is available on Fab for you to download for free, as well as the high texture that is found in this tutorial. And yeah, I hope you guys had a blast, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.